Welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. Maverick Murph, as he's now been renamed, is here, so we thought we'd grab you because the last one that month. Murph, it's been a busy time for yourself.
Yeah, it really has. It always is now, isn't it? The Live League is just running continuously. Lots of Pro Tours, the Euro Tours are coming up in September as well, and of course the World Matchplay, both women's and men's in the middle of it, so really fun time.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on the women's Matchplay first of all, because obviously you do all the women's series for the PDC and everything like that. First of all, how would you assess how it went down?
I commentated on it for TalkSport, and I was really pleased. I was sat next to Dita Hedman, and she was equally pleased about how busy the venue was. But no one was really sure what to expect in terms of getting a crowd in, but the fans really seemed to turn up for it, really seemed to sit and enjoy it. My mum went to the event, and her and her mates really enjoyed it as well. I thought the standard was not as good as I thought it would be in terms of the top two players. Lisa Ashton didn't really turn up, but there were some moments, Katie Sheldon's match against Fallon Sherrock being one of them, and Fallon Sherrock winning the title. But yeah, I thought for a start it was a good start. I think we've maybe been a little bit spoiled with the moments that we've had in Fallon Sherrock doing what she's done on the TV stages, etc. Even Bo Greaves' performance at the WDF World Championship. So I think it was. There's room for improvement, put it that way, but in terms of an event, I think it was a really good start.
The race for the Matchplay was really interesting. Like you said, the two youngsters in Chloe O'Brien and Kate Sheldon really stealing the limelight and battering their way in those last two spots.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheldon's a really interesting one because she plays so quickly, so fearlessly. I think Chloe O'Brien's got a little more of a way to go than Katie has yet, but it's a learning curve for her. Probably benefited from the fact that Trina Gulliver didn't enter the last weekend. It would have been a nice story to see her there. But I think now, the women have seen it. I think one or two who didn't commit fully to the women's series might decide to now, particularly with the new ranking cycle starting at the very next event.
A lot of talk at the moment about the PDC introducing the Women's World Championship. Where are you on that? Do you think there needs to be an end goal for them? Yes, the match play is great, but does there need to be something for them to shoot to every year?
Well, the thing is, it depends what the PDC's end goal is with women's darts, and I've always been under the impression, and what I'm in agreement with, is that the end goal is to get more women integrated into the main tour. So these opportunities for women's darts in the PDC system at the moment are to give them more opportunities to get the level higher, so eventually you start getting more and more women doing what Lisa Ashton did and getting a tour card, and more being competitive like Fallon Sherrock has in the, I can't call them men's events, but the main events, and see it grow that way. So I don't really see the need for a Women's World Championship, because I think once you start doing that, you start moving it too far away from that, for what I believe is a unique selling point that PDC has in the sport of darts, that women and men can play in the same tournaments, and I don't think it should move too far away from that. But I do understand the need to give women opportunities, and the fantastic buzz that there is around women's sport in general at the moment as well.
Well, yeah, obviously the Lionesses doing what they did as well, it's just catapulted it. Staying on the match play, Michael van Gerwen just does what Michael van Gerwen does. There were many question marks around him due to that operation so close to the match play, and it started off a little shaky, but he grew into the tournament, and winning back-to-back, I want to drop the M-word, majors, whatever you want to call them, premier events, the way he's done, it's quite scary for the rest of the field that he's done one injured and one not fully fit.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody could have predicted with any great confidence that Michael van Gerwen would win that tournament. Not even him, and he said as much himself. Even going into the final, he said, "I'm the underdog for this final."
Do you actually believe him though when he said that? I think, obviously we know him quite well. I think he played the best mind games ever on Gerwen price in the lead up to that final.
Yeah, well maybe the whole thing was a master plan. He never had an injury. And it's an absolute genius ploy if that's the case. But no, I think with the nature of the injury and the nature of the operation, Michael van Gerwen would have been genuinely concerned about how he was going to come out the other side of it. He was very, he got it done, didn't he, and wants to prolong his career and all that, but I think he maybe half expected that it might take a while for him to get back to his best. I mean, maybe we didn't see him at his best at the match play, he won it, but we didn't see him at his best. But what I would say is it's probably the first tournament, or maybe even the Premier League could count as that, because he'd announced that he was going to have the operation before that, and it's probably the first few months that he's played in a decade without real pressure, because by announcing the operation, by announcing the injury, he'd taken a lot of pressure off himself, and rather than being the man with a target on his back, it's like suddenly people are questioning him, people think he's the underdog, and maybe that played into his hands as well. I don't know, but it might have been a Van Gerwen under no pressure, but I also think people are still questioning him, and I also think you've got to look at it now. I mean, he's just won a World Series event as well. I think I have to say that right now Van Gerwen's back to being the best player in the world. He's won the Premier League, he's won the Matchplay, he's won a World Series event, he's won more titles than any other player this year. I think he's up there as the best in the world again, and he's still got another 10-20% to add on.
He said that obviously we did a Zoom with him today, and he's like, I'm having spells again. He actually said, I'm having those spells again.
Yeah.
But it's evident as well that he come up after the break today and was unplayable against Gerwen. So close to his best, and the warning shots are there that he wants everything back that he's lost. Yeah,
I do think that it will continue to be tougher than when he was on his way up, because the quality of the other players, particularly Price, who I think is still getting better as well. I think we maybe haven't quite seen the best of him yet either. Maybe Peter Wright is perhaps going the other way, but Gerwen Price in particular, I think that's a rival we will see for the next few years, and one that we look forward to. But look, it's a couple of finals now and he's beaten them in both. Maybe it's a big motivation for him to be officially the main man, the world champion, the world number one once again. Interesting as well, Michael's injury, we touched on Peter there as well. I've never seen dart players getting injured so much. That's what they have over the last year. What's your take on this? Because we've never seen it before, and it's not just he's got a knock. There's been some serious ones where players have needed surgery or been threatened with surgery. Yeah, I mean, my understanding of Van Gerwen's injury is that it's a kind of injury brought on by almost repetitive strain. So that's kind of an understandable one, and we do see him actually picking and choosing what he plays in, but players are probably going to have to do that a little bit more. Players that have the luxury of doing it probably should do it while they can and preserve it, because there might be a time when they need to go to everything and they've got a little bit more energy in the tank. But I think some of the other ones are more like lifestyle things as well, and it's about how you live life on the road. It's difficult, all of us who, even those who don't play darts, who are on the road a lot, it's really difficult to live a healthy lifestyle, but it's becoming more and more important, I think, otherwise you'll find yourself not having a choice about which events you miss because you're going to miss them through injury or illness, etc. Rob Cross, an interesting one, that when he said that he wasn't going to play anything ranked, we thought it was just he's just saying it because he was a little bit aggrieved that he didn't get a Premier League pick, but he's still absolutely adamant that he doesn't play anything unranked anymore. Do you think that's something that we're perhaps going to see more and more? And the reason I say that is because there was quite a high list of players that didn't even attempt to qualify for the World Series final. And is that maybe something that needs addressing, the ranked and unranked balance within the calendar? Yeah, first of all, if you've got an unranked tournament, I'm not really keen on there being a qualifier for it anyway. That's my opinion. I know that all players feel like they should get an opportunity, but it's not going to make a difference to the ranking system. So I'm not really a fan of having a qualifier for that event anyway. But yeah, I think if you are going to prioritise, then it makes sense to prioritise the ranking events that do make a difference to your career. But it's not all about money. I know some people go, well, what is it, £5,000 for just turning up to the World Series finals? But these top players can do that, £5,000 now. If no one entered and I went to the qualifier and won it, I'd turn up and throw 3 darts and say thank you very much. But I do understand it. I don't know if the Rob Cross thing is a bit of, when he said it, we didn't know if it was a bit of sour grapes that had been left out of the Premier League or whatever, but the standalone decision not to play in the World Series qualifier, I get from some players who playing a lot of events, Euro Tours, Pro Tours, want a bit of a break, are going to be in all the big TV majors. I understand that, and I think maybe I think maybe there are one or two too many unranked televised events that could be replaced with something that was a little bit more meaningful, I guess.
Okay, all change at the top as well. The provisional top 10 list, as we call it, after the Worlds, is a very young and energetic feel to it if it plays out the way it's suggesting at the moment. And some of the legends of the game may be coming towards an end of their career. Gary Anderson, probably more than anyone, that we saw at the match play, that desire, that burning desire to play. And even when he used to get angry, Gary used to go through the gears, but that just doesn't seem to be there anymore. Do you think maybe it could be the last year for Gary Anderson next year, but potentially?
Very possibly. I mean, it's very like Gary Anderson that he turns up at Ali Pali and has a run deep in that tournament and stays in all the TV events for another year or two. But as things stand now, he's not going to be anything if he doesn't do that at either the World Championship or the Grand Slam or one of the big ranking events before the end of the year. And I can't see him being the type of player that will want to play in Euro Tours, want to play in qualifiers for Euro Tours, want to play in qualifiers for other things. So he might decide to play what he's invited to and what he's qualified for and wind down, but I'd be guessing. But in terms of the whole thing, I think it's really exciting that we've got the likes of Joe Cullen, Luke Humphreys, Ryan Searle, players like that, Danny Noppert,
I think.
that are all up there. We're talking about, we've had a couple of events where we've had Van Gerwen winning finals, we've had Price in finals, we've had Wright winning the World Championship, but there's this. Then we've got Cullen and Noppert winning titles this year as well, and I think it's really exciting because we're going into events not only thinking like which one of these three players are going to win it, when by the way before it was which Phil Taylor's going to win it, and then it was Michael van Gerwen's going to win it, and then it became maybe one of two, one of three. Now you're looking at like maybe one of 10, and that is really, really exciting, and maybe even more than that. So I think darts, in terms of competition and unpredictability, is in the best place it's potentially ever been.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's a real intriguing scenario coming up. The rest of the year, what are you expecting from the rest of the year?
Based on the conversation we had earlier, Van Gerwen to kick on a little bit more. I think he's certainly got this bit between his teeth, this determination to win big events again, and there were moments, particularly in the match play, where he really looked like he was enjoying being there again, enjoying doing what he was doing. The one that springs to mind, the 146 against Nathan Aspinall, and that was that flash of that old Michael van Gerwen. But there are other players that are really emerging now and winning regularly, and I think that we're just going to get, a really exciting end to the season. And in terms of like the major tournaments, I think you could easily see another 4 different winners between now and the end of the year. I don't think we'll get 1 or 2 players mopping them all up.
No, and then with the youth side of it, obviously Josh Rock posted an astronomical average. Was it 2? Well, the first day on the Pro Tour, we've seen some of the youngsters coming through here. I mean, that World Youth Championship at Minehead this year could be a bit spicy.
Absolutely, and you're getting a situation now where people have spoken for years about whether or not the age is too high, but you're getting now players that are 18, 19 that are massively experienced in playing.
For me, it's not the age; it's the issue. It's
the tour card. But you are, even with players who don't have a tour card, because they've got WDF Challenge Tour, Development Tour, Online Darts Live League that they can all be involved in. They've got so much experience of playing at a good standard, at a high level against good opponents, that they're not fazed, by anything anymore. I don't think you're going to see another World Youth Championship final like we saw a few years ago when Adam Gavlas didn't even realise he was meant to be playing on the stage and just wasn't prepared for it at all. I think, that tournament, I'd love to see maybe the quarterfinals onwards played on a stage in the same way we saw the women's series for that, because I think it'd be very watchable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Again, I just want to get your point on this, because we saw it. Vladimir Anderson openly put on his social media he was pulling out of the Pro Tours to go and play in the Associated Tours because it was an easier way for him to get to the World Championship. Confirmed today, Darius Labanauskas has qualified for the World Championship through an Associated Tour. What's your take on players that have got tour cards deliberately missing stuff to take the easy option to get to the World Championships. That doesn't really sit right with me personally. I just
yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because usually I would say don't blame the player, blame the game type of thing.
No, I agree with you. It's not the player's fault.
But having said that, it has to be a World Championship, so the PDC need to have these avenues open. So the question is whether they close the loophole for players who have a tour card, but by doing that they're probably harming their own event slightly because they potentially get a player who's not quite as good from that part of the world. So it's a difficult conundrum, but I totally get it because there are other players who don't have other qualification routes who have tour cards. But you could also have said that, I suppose, with Lisa Ashton and the Women's Series for the last couple of years. You could say it for players that are on the Pro Tour and the Youth Tour and Development Tour. So yeah, I think it's something that maybe needs to be looked at long term, but I think at the moment it's a minor issue, I would say.
Murph, absolute pleasure sitting down and talk to you as always, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure's all mine, Phil. Cheers.